get that stuff up, these floors are quite sticky. But, so I tried prying this up, and earlier I had to cut these panels off with the grinder because I couldn't get them out with this wood in the way. I can't get the pry bar in there to pry it out. And then I tried prying up the wood, and I couldn't do that because this bump or whatever is in my way. So now I have to get a saw and cut little cuts out of this plywood on both sides so I can get the wood out and then get these little side panels out as well. Alright, and when you're doing this, you want to make sure that, one, your plywood is kind of pried up a little bit. So I'm just going to get this under here. You can kind of see that plywood lift a little bit. But then you also want to make sure that your depth of the blade isn't any thicker than the thickness of the plywood, plus maybe 1/8 of an inch, so you don't hit the frame and under part of the bus here that you don't want to really disturb.
Let's go! Let's go! Let's go!
Alright, let's see if we can get this broken. Get it out. Well, that works. So that actually pulled my piece off for me. There's still a screw in there I have to take out. Actually, nicely. So I can just pull this up. Break it off. There you go. Alright, sweet. Alright, another quick thing here is, obviously you can tell there's a lot of rust in there. There was a lot more water damage, and these boards were a lot more wet than I expected. Most of them did some stuff like this. They just kind of crumbled because they were so wet. When I was cutting it with the saw, it was coming out real heavy. The main reason I cut them in half was just to make them more manageable, because these massive 4x8 sheets of plywood with water are like 100 plus pounds, so splitting them apart really helped just manage, and made it easier pulling them up. So it's a bunch of bolts just in the floor, gotta grind off. flooring out, I'll have to clean up these floors, put some paint down to keep that rust from spreading and coming up through. And then I have to deal with this area. There's a crap ton of screws in all this, so I have to deal with all that, get the stuff out of there, and then I have to also take the seat out, which I totally forgot to do when Ryan was here last time. Alright, finally, time to start painting the floors, getting them protected from the water. So I'm going to use this Chassis Saver. This is a product I found in some of my research that one of the guys recommended. It's an all-in-one, so it stops the rust and then protects your floor all in one rather than doing two separate things. So I've got a roller and a brush, some of those harder to reach places. And you always want to make sure with this stuff you wear gloves, rubber gloves, because the guy that recommended it said that it sticks to your hands. It doesn't really come off until you basically shed. So some rubber gloves protect your hands. With most of the stuff you're doing here, working in the bus, whether it's painting or working on cleaning stuff up, whatever, you always want to have gloves on anyway, just because it's really dirty. And if you are working with metal, make sure you're wearing protective gloves to keep your hands from getting cut. But then also with this step, I'm also going to scrub the floors down one last time with some water with this brush and then wipe it up with this towel just to get the last bit of dirt up, since the last time I cleaned it was a few days ago. I've got my first coat on here and dry, so I have to come back here and hit some of these other spots. So you can see, like right here is kind of light compared to over there, layering wise. So I have to come back and hit most of this with a second coat, so it all looks nice and shiny and smooth, like this area. Yeah, so I pretty much have to do all of the floor, but they also recommend doing a second coat just on some of these heavier spots that had heavier rust. So that just gets a real good clean coat. And then there's just some spots like this that didn't quite get covered fully the first time as well. Alright, so if you're wondering why I was brushing it on, not rolling it on, it actually on the can says to not roll it on. Not entirely sure why that is. I think maybe it just has to do with how thick the paint is and it would get absorbed into the roller. You'd waste a lot of it and it just wouldn't go on well. That's my assumption, but if you are someone that works for whatever this company is that produces this product, let's see, I don't even know, but Magnet Paints, there you go. So if you work for Magnet Paints, reach out in the comment section to tell me why rolling it on is not a good idea.